how would you like to make your first million? And today we have Kevin Green with us, and he's a keynote speaker, personal chef, former Division One runner, and public educator, raising Southern grit and second chances as a Food Network shop competitor. He's a hybrid athlete and personal chef turned into public speaking. Kevin Green blend life experience with the hard humor, hard-won wisdom. So, Kevin, tell us, what are the 5 steps that you recommend entrepreneurs in order to make the first million?
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Yes, Harry. Well, thank you so much for having me on. 5 steps to making your first million. I talk about 3 P's in particular, so I'll start with those. The first one is passion. You got to discover your passion. Too many people are doing things they don't like to do. Number 2 is purpose. You've got to find your purpose. You got to figure out what you're meant here, what you're here to do. That will fuel you. And then it's purpose, it's passion, and potential. Number 3, I think people have to find or develop their potential and commit to that. It's this idea of always getting better. Number 4, I think you got to make sure that your business is meeting a need or solving a problem that people actually have, right? If you're going to shoot the target, you got to make sure you're aiming at the right thing. And then lastly, for me, in my experience, I think you have to make sure it's scalable. It's not just trading time for money, but you're positioned in the marketplace to scale, automate, and delegate so that you can run that business when you're not moving. So those are the 5 things that I would say.
Well, and then you have become a chef, and you become a chef because you like food. Somehow, I find you really skinny, really fit, right?
Skinny.
Food chef, yeah,
I got
chef.
meat on these bones. Come on
Yeah,
now.
look at. So you have a mix of, you are a chef, which is you love food, yet you also an athlete, and
Yes.
all the food you eat, you burn it. So tell us a little bit more how you started your business, and what was the biggest challenge that you have in your business, how you overcome that challenge.
Yes, great question. So I started out with a degree in nutrition as a runner in college, and I've enjoyed fitness and food and that dynamic. And so I was a corporate chef for a while for a large national dining chain, and I was kind of going through the motions, and it was tough. They made changes in the C-suite, and I decided to quit. Quit a job without a job, which was what I was taught to never do. Be
Wow.
responsible. But it was the first time. I was 28, and I quit that job without another job. And had to deal with the fear, the unknowns, and the uncertainty. And then I started my own business like 6 months later, and it took some time to get going, but it was going against what I was taught and told in the name of responsibility and facing the risk and uncertainty of entrepreneurship.
So what message do you have for our listeners? They are in corporate, right? And they are
Mm-hmm.
in this golden cage, they're cash rich, time poor, and they're listening to you. They're listening to you and say, wow, I wish I have the courage to start my own business. On the other hand, people, this thing that you did, right? Take a lot of courage because what we share in this podcast for everyone is, if you are in corporate and you're trying to start your own business, I mean, at least start a small business on the side and try it if you like it, and try it if you like to be an entrepreneur, because the dynamic completely different. When you are in corporate, yeah, you can tell to the people, this is not my job, right? You have a very clear description what is your job and what is not your job. But when you're an entrepreneur, the whole dynamic change. Everything is your job. And some people say, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to be an entrepreneur from corporate. And then when they dive in and they see what it's going to take in order to make this work, they prefer to be in the corporate.
Yes.
So what message do you have for the wannabe entrepreneurs that they are in corporate and they are scared to fear to face the unknown?
Yeah, a great question. So as a chef and as one who's curated table moments for other people, I like to answer that question by thinking of a table. So if it's a metaphor, I have a talk where I encourage people, implore people to build their own table. And by that, I mean adopt a mindset to where you become the head of your own table or the CEO of me. There's a lot of folks that want to start the side hustle or want to quit their day job. And I don't necessarily suggest that. I've got friends and families that have done that, and I've quit. And that's not
What you did
always
was
the,
very brave.
well, it took courage, but I like to tell people that you don't have to quit and necessarily start the side hustle, but you need to find a way to like build your own table and adopt that mindset, whatever that means for you. But it does take some courage. I was more curious initially than courageous, but
Ah,
you have
wow.
to. Yeah, I went through a process to make that decision, but I was like so stuck and so frustrated. I kind of had to step out to find out and embrace that uncertainty. So a lot of it has to do with mindset and putting some support around you. So those are two things that I would tell our audience today.
Okay, let me share what we discovered after an interview of over 500 million in this podcast. We discovered that all entrepreneurs, we have a gene within ourselves, right? And it doesn't matter is your entrepreneurship form of human being is going to go out. It doesn't matter if you're 20 years old, some people 20 years old, some people 28 years old, some people 40 years old, some people 60 years old, but that gene is within yourself, and you're just born with this thing. It's not hereditary. There are a lot of people that we interview in this podcast that the parents are not entrepreneurs, and they are great entrepreneurs. There are other people that it comes from family that everyone is entrepreneur. So that means that the gene is within you, right? And
Mm-hmm.
here my question: why entrepreneurs we need to wait until the worst day of our life become the best day of our life in order for us to say, you know what, this is it, I'm gonna do it, right? And I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
become an entrepreneur.
yeah,
It happened to me also, right?
yeah.
So I'm born with the same gene like you, right? And it's inside me. And then what happened? And every job that I'm going, I'm thinking, oh, I can do this better. If I was working in a restaurant, I'm thinking, oh, one day I'm gonna have my own restaurant. I can do better. If I go to work somewhere else, I'm thinking I'm gonna have this company. So always thinking, if when I have a chance, thinking. So all my life as an employee, it was not too long. Anyway, my short life as an employee, that's what I was thinking, right? But then my dad got cancer. I didn't have any money to go and see him. I said, you know what, this is it. I'm starting my own property business, and I never
Yeah.
look back. 18 years ago.
Wow,
So
congrats.
and in your case, why? What happens? Why do you think that? Because the story that you just shared with me is very common for all our podcast guests. Yeah, you will
Mm-hmm.
receive repeated that you say, okay, Harry, I have this. I get upset or fed up, and then I open my business. Or my boss did that to me, and that's it. Or COVID came, I got lay out, and then I started my business. So why we had to wait until something dramatic happened? And what message do you have for those ones that have our gene, that listening and say, "Oh, I wish and I can
Yeah,
do it." They have it, but
yeah.
so because sometimes the worst day of our life become the best day of our life. Because imagine if everything was good in your job and they pay you a lot of money and they keep you comfortable, maybe you will never be the entrepreneur that you are today. Have you ever thought about this?
Yes, no, that's a great question. I think there's similarities in all of us, and I would answer that by saying that, and at the expense of sounding cliche, but like I think a lot of times our pain can lead to a purpose, right? And that's what happened with me. And so, I've quit essentially 3 career jobs and two relationships ultimately because I knew I was made for more. And
Oh,
so,
wow.
and a lot of those have been unexpected. Along the journey of my career journey, I was an educator. I started a culinary program at a high school, and I thought it was going to be the long game. But I remember sitting in my supervisor's office when I resigned, and I was like, told him what I was unhappy with, what I was frustrated. I was like, if this is my one day, then I've been lied to. Like a lot of us wait for one day. We wait for the optimum circumstances or whatever. But like sometimes we just have to know that we're permitted to make a move, whatever that may be. And so for me, I've been able to turn pain into pivots and ultimately into purpose. And that's happened multiple times for me. And so I want to say this too, because you mentioned something there about you growing up. So I use an onion also as a metaphor in a lot of my talks and in my workshops. And I talk about peeling back the layers and getting to the core. And so a lot of time those layers are lies and limiting beliefs. And the one that I believe prior to quitting corporate and starting this journey was I had to know everything up front and have it all figured out. My father was mostly self-employed and he had businesses, but like I didn't ask questions and he didn't share information. So I thought I had to have an MBA or $1 million in the bank or whatever. But I've learned that's not the case. And so you can ask
Yeah, sometimes
experts,
you
you
have
can
those
learn as you
limiting
go.
beliefs. You have
Yeah.
those limiting
So
beliefs. Oh, in order to have your business, you need to have 1 million. You have to have this. Maybe because a friend told you, somebody told you, you saw in a TV show or something, and that is
yeah,
sticking to your mind. And then you look back and you are like, wow, I believe something, and it was
yes,
and it was not true, right?
wasn't
So
true. Yes, yes, very much.
very, very common. And sometimes the people, your peers, they try to help you and they tell you something just to help you out, and these things stick on in your mind, and it's not actually true. I think that the most important thing is have this mindset within yourself that we can do better, right? Because
Yes,
this,
yes,
whether we like it or not, us all entrepreneurs, we have that ego within ourselves that we can do better. That's the main reason that we become entrepreneur in the first place. That's
yeah,
part of the of the gene that we all have, right?
yeah,
That when we big companies, of course, we have to surrender to that ego and develop leadership. But to starting out, we have to trust in ourselves and believe that we can do better. So um, let's talk about speaking, right?
yes.
And the workshops, something that I'm very familiar because we do workshops and speaking gigs all over the world. So tell us about your speaking career. What topics do you like to speak, and how come you become a speaker? Because this is um, and I'm doing workshops and so on. Something that is a lot of fun. I love it. I don't know if I do a workshop for for the public or for me, because every time that that I finish one of my workshop, I'm so fired up myself. Yeah, I actually love it. So
Yeah.
tell us about this.
Yeah, so I know public speaking is a lot of people, a lot of folks, greatest fear. It's interesting. So I've got 17 years in the culinary world, and I've done a variety of different things. And in 2023, a few years ago, I thought I was going to scale. We talk about growing our businesses. I was going to scale a meal prep company here in the States, and I'd met a business coach, and he had experience, and one thing led to another. But I was 6 months down the road, and I realized that it's a toxic relationship at best, and we were not aligned on multiple levels. Um, in addition to that, I also went through an unexpected and unfortunate divorce personally, and it just kind of wrecked me for a time. And it gave me great clarity, again, pain to purpose of what I did and didn't want. And I'd been in front of groups and done different things. There's one reason I went into teaching was to help and to be in front of a group. But I saw that as a vehicle to keep growing entrepreneurially, because I've kind of reached the ceiling with the chef and what I've done, and I wanted a new challenge. And I knew through speaking and through workshops, I can have a greater impact, a greater influence, and obviously a greater income. And so, but I speak to college students and young professionals. I help them create a life
Very
they
good.
love because they've discovered a career that fits. And so I went through a lot of frustration and futility because I didn't ask. I wasn't instructed or taught or trained to ask certain questions on the front end. And so now I've got keynotes and workshops with frameworks that help young professionals do that so they don't waste 20 years of their life, and they're fulfilled and they're finding purpose in their day to day.
So how you overcome the fear of public speaking? The biggest fear of a human being can have.
I wish I knew. I had an event last week, and literally, I was so energized. I know you can relate, Harry. Like there was something for me that I was like energized and excited. It was like the movie The Greatest Showman, or going on the football field, or Remember the Titans. I know those are a little bit dated, but those are important favorites of mine. But I get excited when I approach the stage because I know that my words carry weight and they have the opportunity to impact others and elevate their life, big picture and in the small
Yeah,
picture.
I think
So
that the more you practice, the better you become. Right? Is I was
oh
doing
yeah,
I was doing few gigs in London. I remember back in the day, telling you a long time ago. Um, gigs with 50 people, 100 people, things like this. And one day they call me, Harry, come, your publisher is going to speak at this event. Come, you're going to come to the stage, talk about your book. I say, okay, yes, I'm coming, bro. It was the National Achievement Congress. There were 2,000 people there.
2,000.
And
No
I
pressure.
remember, I remember when my publisher is gonna pass the mic. I knew that it's gonna pass the mic to me. I know that because he's saying, okay, now Harry is gonna speak about his book, so clearly he's gonna give me the mic and everything. And oh my God, they're two big screens, huge there, and all my friends, they were there. And when you do the talks with 50 to 100 people, you can see the face of your friends, you know what they are, you
Yeah.
say hello, you're friendly, right? And I'm going there I told all my friends, look, I'm gonna speak in this gig, go there, right? And oh my God, these 2,000 people there, this thing was huge. I'm looking at the public and I cannot see any of my friends. I always say, go to say hello to my friends that keep me safe. And oh my
Yeah.
God, I'm looking and the whole thing is dark. It's 2,000 people there. I cannot see anybody. And two big, huge screens with my face so big. And this microphone is coming to me. And I remember only what I saw was a red dot behind. This red dot behind, it was the camera that is amplifying my image. So I knew that I had to speak to that red dot, right? But oh my God, I think that was one of the first time that I really feel these butterflies in my stomach. And I remember that I was
Yes.
smiling. I know that there are 2,000 people there, so I'm smiling, and I was so nervous that my smile trying to get serious. So great experience. Of course, the is always need to have a like the first time, right? To do. Then after the experience turns out that I'm doing better in big audiences than in small ones. Now it's easy, the bigger audiences than the small ones. But oh my God, at the beginning was tough the first time that
Yeah.
I
That's all.
land there. So any that I have trained thousands of people over the world how to overcome the fear of public speaking. This is one of the things that we do in our workshop. So tell us, you say at the beginning, you said, well, I want to become a speaker, I want to do my own workshops and so on. But
Mhm.
very small percentage of the population actually can embrace the fear of public speaking because it's the biggest fear of a human being can have. And tell us any challenge that you have in this process at the beginning. How was it? Is it getting
Yeah.
better? You still have this fear, or how you embrace that because it never goes away anyway.
Yes, that's a great question. Philosophically, for me, part of this process and doing as a speaker and things I've had to go through, uh, I want this to inspire the audience because for me, I never really developed my voice. We talked about how we grew up a minute ago, and for years, I didn't show up on social media, or I stayed quiet in a boardroom when I should have spoke up, or I
Mm-hmm,
didn't
mm-hmm,
communicate in my personal relationships that well. I
mm-hmm,
didn't
mm-hmm.
establish
It's showing
boundaries,
up
set
everywhere.
expectations.
It's showing up in
So
your
these
bank
are,
account, in your relationship at
yeah,
work. It's
yeah.
showing up everywhere.
So all
So
that to
how you
say that,
empower
like, I
yourself?
had, well, yeah, you have to. And so now it's like I'm releasing that voice, if you will, and inspiring others to do the same. But I read a quote, this is a few months back, and I know you'll get this. Like, I don't know if it's the fear of public speaking, it is, but if you get under that a little bit, I think it's just this fear of being in front and exposed, seen, that
Mm-hmm.
gets us a lot of times mentally. And so I'm a drummer as well. And so
Oh
if you're
wow.
on this, yeah, yeah. So if you're on the stage and you're rocking and you drop a stick or mess up, you can't hide, right? Like everyone's there watching you, and it is what it is. It's the same with speaking. And so while it's fun to go out there and create a moment and make
Mm-hmm.
a song, if you will, like there's something about being vulnerable that while it's exciting, it's also very scary. And so that's one mindset shift I've had to work on, understanding that principle. Like you're gonna come out of hiding and be authentic so that you can
Mm-hmm.
connect with that audience and make an impact.
Yeah, we have this is a big challenge for human beings out there because exactly that voice is your real voice, who you really are, is actually restrained because of that fear. And you think, well, where this fear is coming from is very easy. When we all were kids, yeah, what our parents are telling us, don't talk to strangers, don't talk to strangers, because of
Yeah.
course they worry about us. So we listening when we're very small from our parents and even from the teachers of the school, everywhere. Don't speak up, don't talk to strangers, this is dangerous, they can take you, don't do that. So all of a sudden, from the every early age, from
Yeah.
all human beings have a lot of people tell me, Harry, this is only in London. Well, we've been in Singapore, wherever we go, it's the same thing. That fear is there, right? It doesn't matter which country, Latin America, you name it. We all have this because is our parents want to keep us safe,
Yeah.
and at very early age is key that if you're a kid, you don't talk to strangers, with people you don't know, because it's dangerous. That's bad. Okay. And then,
Yeah.
imagine, then you go in business or you go work and you have to talk to strangers. I had to say that your chef career help you a lot with the public speaking, more than what you think, because when you're a chef, you need to tell your team, hi, we're doing this dish, I want everybody paying attention, you do the salad, you do this, you do that. So somehow your chef, and even when you went to the TV show, right?
Yeah.
Still, maybe it was the first time that you saw these big cameras in front of you, but you have been speaking in public. The challenge becomes this one, right? Where when you're a chef, and you're chef, and only about that, right? 100% what you're doing.
Yeah.
So you are not scared to talk with your team about how the dish should be. You're 100% certain. I do an exercise in my workshop. It's very funny. Yeah, I said I have sometimes, let's say 300, 500 people, and I say, okay, raise your hand. Who's scared of public speaking and never done and is terrified? And maybe 80% of the room raise their hand. The other 20%, they are so scared to raise it because I'm gonna call them that they don't raise their hand.
Yeah.
So, and then I
Yeah.
call maybe 10 people to the stage. I say, okay, tell them the name of your dad, tell them the name of your children, tell them the name, how old are you? And they take the microphone, and all of a sudden they are speaking. I said, look, I saw
I'm
you were
doing it.
terrified. So the point is, we all can do it. The issue is we have to be certain, right?
Yeah.
Because when we certain of what we are gonna talk, you knew that when you are doing the chef thing, you
Yeah.
knew that all this kitchen, maybe you have 20 people, you know that you know exactly what everybody had to do, and you certain how this dish needs to come, and you can speak confident in public in front of these 20 people. Say, I want everybody to do this, you do this, you do that. I want the dish here, the
Yeah.
200 dish, I want them done. No excuses, let's do it, right? Now,
Yeah.
the thing that now you're in corporate, and now you have that CEO that you think that know better than you, and then you have the C-level, and now you start to be something in your back of your mind is say, well, you know what? I don't want to speak up because they might fire me, or they might do this and they might do that. And as soon as you lose the certainty in that, and what
Hmm.
happens same with the relationship, right? I don't want to tell her that because I might upset her, or I don't want to do this. So the moment that you start to that certainty disappear is when the fear take over. So that's why you're not scared doing your workshop, because you're certain, you know 100% what you're teaching to your people. Do you understand?
Oh
That's why
yeah.
you go out and you do this workshop, and wow, how come I'm not scared? Well, because you know 100%, you certain 100% what you teaching them, right? Based on your own experience. And
Yeah.
so uh, tell us about the transformation once you find your voice. What is possible for you, and what can be possible for people?
Once you find your voice, that's a powerful statement right there, Harry. I like it. I like it. So for me and that idea, it's very interesting. I love to think about being authentic and showing up authentically, and that's one of the things when I mentioned social media. I kind of stiff armed that for years. Like it's not really my personality. And I eventually came to this place where I was like, I've got to release my voice and start sharing what I know. From a business perspective, you can monetize that skill set. So you got to show up if you have something to say. And when I decided to pull the trigger on speaking, like I knew I finally had something to say, and also knew in confidence that there was someone who needed to hear that. So you ask
Mm-hmm.
about like releasing your voice, power and possibilities and things. I remember when I was going through some things personally with that, like I would go to YouTube and I was binging like playlist of coaches and therapists. I was looking for some help of the stuff I was going through, right? And because they had a catalog of content, I was like, you know what? I've got to be the same now for the young professional, the college student, the young adult who needs the same guidance that I did or didn't have, or maybe in a better way.
But
And
yet you
so,
have to develop your own speaking style. Yeah, I always share
oh
this.
yeah,
The one of the biggest challenges that people want to become a speaker and they want to be like Tony Robbins, what you can see in the back screen of my background. People want to be like Tony Robbins and like this and Les Brown, and you
yeah,
have to find your own style.
yeah,
And some people gonna like it, some people not gonna like it, and that's okay. But the
yeah,
worst thing, Kevin, that people can do is try to when they start to do social media is trying to be somebody else or trying to do it like somebody else because they will never find the voice, or they start to see others in the social media. They start to see other people, okay, and they say, "Oh my God, this guy is amazing." No, you know what? I'm not gonna do social media. Well, the guy is amazing because he's a practice a lot. The first time he did it, uh, even this podcast, sometimes I see the first episode and I'm like, "Oh God, what a disaster!" So
what a
the first
disaster.
episode of this podcast, I'm like, "Oh my God, Harry, what a disaster! How could you do that to people?" Uh, so the more you practice, the better you become, right?
Oh yeah, well to that point, like my first bit of videos like a year and a half ago on Instagram, like they were good, but it took those reps, like many things,
Hmm.
to kind of find your voice and find your style. And the worst thing we can do is try to be someone we're not. It won't come across as authentic. It won't be received. You can kind of tell. And so I'll say this, I encourage in one of my presentations, I talk about living out of identity, activity, then expression. So expression's like that
Hmm.
final like signature sauce, that swag, where it's your stylistic way of how you do the thing you do. And so Harry,
Hmm.
when you're presenting, when you're writing, when we're doing our thing, like we got to be honest about it. We got to find that authentic self and bring that to the table.
Hmm.
That's where we connect with others.
Yeah, and then go for it. You will find people that like what you do, right? You see, I'm a public speaking coach, and every time that I do one speech, my girlfriend is waiting for me with a long list of all the grammar mistakes that I made, right?
Thank you,
Just
thank you.
right when I go down the stage, she's just waiting for me to telling me how
Surely
bad I
not.
did and how many mistakes I've done and how can I do that in front of so many people? I should prepare more, and she always telling me, but this is what it is. Every 10 words that I say, nine they are wrong pronounced and grammar mistake. But there are people maybe that they are not perfect, that they say, okay, you know what, I feel more confident with Harry because he's not good looking, he's bald, chubby, doesn't know how to speak properly, and he's doing all this. You know what, I better learn from him. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you need to find your voice, your own style, and who you are. And this is the good news, Kevin, is that this
Yes.
public speaking thing and the workshops is a skill base. So the more you practice, the better you become. When I finish the conferences, the people come, you should see them. Harry, that was amazing, man. That was
Yeah.
amazing. How can you do that? I'm telling them all the time, guys, I've done this 1,000 times. That's why. That's why he's amazing. You think that I'm amazing? Nothing amazing about me. The amazing thing is that I've done it so many times that eventually you learn. Eventually you
Oh,
learn, how to look at the people. Eventually, Kevin, I discovered this in my public speaking career. You start to learn to don't put in the way what you want to say, and you start to be present to the public and find out what they want to hear. Okay. So
Yeah.
once you have that connection with the audience, sometimes I'm doing talks and the promoter is talking to me and say, Harry, how come you didn't use a PowerPoint? And you told me bring the computer with the PowerPoint. Then 90 minutes you didn't use any PowerPoint. What's wrong with you? They're happy, but what happened? And what
Yeah.
happened was very simple. Before I put the PowerPoint, I asked few questions to the audience, and I realized that they don't care about what I'm gonna talk about at all.
Uh-oh.
And what's the point to do a PowerPoint presentation, something that they don't really care? They actually wants to know something else, and that's what they really are there. And
Yeah.
when you have experience, you ask few questions to the audience, and very easy. The thing changed. Also with the workshop happened the same thing, right? The workshop I have a standard points that I want to cover, but oh my god, those workshops take left, right, whatever they want to take it, we we go together, because at the end of the day, you're doing for the people, right? And
Yeah.
they sometimes audiences are they have different needs. They go together, they go for lunch, they go for whatever, and after day two, and talking to them, and I'm realized these people, they want to learn also. This is what they really want, so let's
Yeah.
help them, let's talk about this. So this is what they want to learn, so let's do it. But it takes a lot of experience, Kevin. This doesn't happen overnight, but it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. So what sports and your chef career, what do you think that foundation have helped you in order to become great speaker, great workshop provider, and an entrepreneur that you are?
Well, with many things, it all starts with mindset. I'm sure you found that to be true. And so, from a chef perspective, working in intense kitchens, hot environments, and all the things, being on Food Network's Chopped here in the States, being under the lights and under some pressure, that teaches you to work your intuition and leverage that and play to your strengths. And there's a focus, a rhythm, a flow, a zone. And so, I love the sport of the kitchen. I love working with my hands, the artistry of food. So those are important tenets. And then as an endurance athlete, I train for these crazy things called high rocks races it's actually quite the global phenomenon right now. So high rocks, and it's running and functional fitness, but it's an endurance race, and there's pain and there's discomfort and there's unexpected things. And so I
And you
utilize,
can always do better, right?
well, yeah. And
If you
so I'm
train
wired.
more, if you
Yeah,
practice
yes,
more,
sir.
you know that you can do better, right?
Well, if you put in the work, you get in the reps, you train your body, you train your mind. Like, I'm wired for progress. And so I can chart that progress, and I can bring all of those principles and apply all of that into speaking. I can use those as tools and resources to equip the audience, to equip the young professionals. And so I'm a believer that we kind of have to stack our skills, and then we can pull from those life experiences, both personally and professionally, and we can make that impact. So that's what I've done with all that.
Yeah. And then, Kevin, the other question that I want to ask you is, when you decided to throw out your corporate career and start your business, so what happened there? Because you know, did anyone told you that you're crazy, that you're an amazing chef, and how come you're gonna drop this? And then you have a lot of uncertainty because you're jumping out to a space that you don't even know. So, what was the reaction of your environment? Do you have any support from anyone? Do you have any entrepreneur in your family that tell you, hey, Kevin, it's gonna be fine. It takes practice. If it doesn't work, you have to reiterate so many times. Think about the sport. Do you have any support, any book, any resource that help you out? And what was the reaction of your environment when you decided that you're not gonna do corporate anymore?
So that's an interesting question. My environment at the time when I made that decision, I that was very much like a solo process that I went through. I didn't phone a lot of friends. I didn't bring too many
So your
voices.
girlfriend, what she said in the day, or your parents, or your closest friends,
So
or you didn't even tell them?
No,
keep
it
it
wasn't
secret?
that. No. I shared and asked a few questions to those that needed to at the time. But I did have
What
friend
was the
support. I did
feedback?
have.
Do you have support,
Um,
or they told you that this is not a good idea?
yeah. So most of them were like, "That's crazy," or "I don't know about this," or "What about your benefit package?" But here's what that
A
kind of
benefit
stuff.
package.
But
Wow.
yeah, it's like,
I
well,
bet
this
that
looks like
was
a
your mom. Yeah, thinking, well,
you got a secure job. You got a paycheck
yeah.
every couple of weeks. You got a 9 to 5. I will say this, and this is what I think is truly important. There's this idea of alignment, and if you're married or if you have a partner, if you have business partners, and there's that lack of alignment as you walk,
Mm-hmm.
you make decisions, navigate. There's power in agreement, and I've learned the hard way more than once, unfortunately, that if there's that lack of alignment, lack of agreement, it's going to be very difficult
It's like a
to
rid race.
get that
You
plane off the
pushing
ground.
yourself. There's no. You find a lot of resistance. Almost impossible, right?
Yeah, so I would encourage anyone listening that think about alignment, think about the voices you let into your mind, and then try to communicate up front as best you can and find the support because you will need it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that now more about mindset because Kevin, every time that we start a business, nobody knows who we are. Okay.
Mm.
So now we need to find the first client. And of course, they don't want to pay us that much money because nobody knows us. And then we also, the supply want to charge you more. And so all those negative emotions, building a business from scratch, right? You're an athlete. So we want from entrepreneurs to be healthy, wealthy, and happy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, and definitely you you look very healthy, yeah,
Thank you.
and and happy, right? And also wealthy. So, how when do you find out that hold on this entrepreneurship exercise? Um, I had to look after myself in the 360. Okay, yeah, before you were an athlete, but now you're running a business, so now you don't have time to go to a gym that much, and then now you start to eat bad because you're working in the business and you are frustrated and a lot of negative emotions. You have anxiety. Now you start eating more and things like that. So when you decided that hold on a minute, I'm running a business here, but this business I'm running this thing is not running me, and I need
Yeah,
to stay healthy and happy to make this work.
yeah. So I've found that fitness kind of it's like the one key that opens all the doors. It kind of helps
Oh
regulate
wow,
everything
very
else.
powerful.
And yes, thank you. I'm very big on like creating the life you love and life by design and like
Mm-hmm,
that. I
mm-hmm.
hated working the night shift. That's one reason as a chef I didn't stay in fine dining.
Oh
I
wow.
like yeah. So I like having that autonomy and control over my schedule, over my time. So I've with each season of life and transition, I've tried to be strategic, and so now I've got like built-in time where I can work out regularly and try to sow into that, make those deposits, and so that I'm consistent. And I found that like when I'm not as sharp, like with my health and other areas suffer, and I can begin to sense that. And so I'm not perfect, but I am disciplined, and I've gotten pretty good at like making sure that's prioritized because I understand the importance of it.
Yeah, we talk a lot here, rather than be a millionaire, you want to have a millionaire lifestyle, right?
Yes.
uh, and if you have the time, this thing filling your own calendar is priceless. So, Kevin, if people want to know more about you, how people can find you, how this process work, can you just share a little bit more?
Yes, absolutely, Harry. They can find me on the web. It's Kevin Green Elevates, kevingreenelevates.com.
Oh, I like
You
it.
can, thank
Website
you
is
so
good.
much. Thank you so much. Oh, yeah. It's a nice website. We've worked hard
Very
on
good.
that. So kevingreenelevates.com. I'm on social media with the same name or on Instagram. It's at Chef Kevin Culinary, actually. So I'm chef to speaker from the stove to the stage, kevingreenelevates.com.
Thank you so much, Kevin. And for all of you following the broadcast, see you in our next episode of Unstoppable. How brave entrepreneurs like Kevin break that wall and achieve the first million. Bye for now.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.